Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets and Titles. My name is Justin Stevens, and we're back with another offseason breakdown bonus episode. As you can see on my screen, it's the Tennessee Titans this time, guys, and we have a couple of amazing guests. I'm going to introduce them here in just a moment, but for the most part, I definitely want you guys to stick around after this little intro because we're about to tighten up, y'all. All right, guys. I think that was enough for the intro. We got all the business stuff taken care of. We're going to keep the lights on again for another week, so we appreciate that time. But first, I want to introduce Tyler Rowland. Tyler, the host of the Locked On Titans podcast, the number one daily Titans podcast out there. You don't get listed as number one unless you're doing something special and something right. And so you've been doing something special and something right, and now you're coming on our show to help us out. We greatly appreciate your time. Tyler, tell us a little bit about where we can find Locked On Titans and what we see coming down the road. Keep in mind this video is going to drop on Saturday, so maybe a little quick intro of what we're going to see next week.
Sure. Locked On Titans, any podcast app, on YouTube. The YouTube channel is really going off right now, so proud of the work we're doing over there, or that I'm doing over there, whatever, trying to keep it a team environment. All the listeners are a part of the team as well, my everydayers out there. So you can catch me Monday through Friday, Locked On Titans podcast. I also write for Sports Illustrated, covering the team at alltitans.com. And I always have my my wild takes and musings at Tic Tac Titans on Twitter as well. So any of those areas you can find me. But definitely do appreciate you having me on the show. Once again, always fun to talk Titans anytime I can.
Absolutely. And for what it's worth, we have 32 of these breakdowns going, and I don't necessarily have all 32 of the Locked On guys on here. There's about 5 to 8 of you that I actually really like. So greatly appreciate your time. And that's coming from a hardcore Colts fan, guys. I'm just going to throw it out there at the beginning. I am a Colts fan, but as you can see, like I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it as low key as possible and let you guys do your thing and talk up your team. But next we have Jake Robertson. Jake Robertson is a writer for Glory Day Sports. So Jake, what I want to know a little bit about where they can find your work, and then again, same thing as with Tyler. Like what can we see coming down the road for like next week?
For sure. And like Tyler said, thanks for having me on. Should be fun on a bun. You can check out my long form at glorydaysports.com. It's my own fan spurt site, but definitely check me out on Twitter at glorydaysports as well. That's where I post daily. Definitely check me out there, though. Definitely for some hot takes, and we'll be talking Titans.
Now, are you from Tennessee, Jake?
No, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So a little bit about me. My family is from Houston. So I grew up an Oilers fan. Whenever we moved over, some of us lost fanship, and then me and my family, we stayed on tight. So
right on. So it's that Mason-Dixon line thing. You said fun on a bun. I'm trying to figure this out a little bit. So
yeah,
that's a good one. I haven't heard that before. So I like it. I like it. All right, so real quick, before we dig right into it, guys, I want to make sure to remind you all, please check out our Patreon account, patreon.com/toiletsandtitles. We've got several different levels there for you, and we got a lot coming down the pipeline, especially just for the Patreons. We've been kind of secretly holding back pieces of our work that we don't give to the general public, and we only give it to the Patreon users. So thanks again for all of our supporters out there. But, guys, we're going to jump right into it. This is the off-season breakdown. But real quick, I want to kind of get a little bit of an idea behind your feelings on how the season ended last year before we really dig a whole lot into the off season stuff. So Jake, we'll start with you. At the end of the season last year, you kind of looked back on the season. How did you feel as a Titans fan?
I mean, it's hard not to look back at last year, if not even the year before that. And really, the underlining factor was injuries. And hopefully, we'll catch a little bit better on the spurts of that. But John Robinson obviously lost his job. We got Rand now, and hopefully, all glory is good. But we really see this transformation and moving from a lunch pack, taking it to work kind of however you want to say it. But and then Rand coming in, we're really seeing the analytics side take over. So we're really looking forward to what this season brings for us. And it should be an interesting AFC South, to say the least.
Yeah, I'll build off what Jake had to say. I mean, you're dead on about the injuries. That's really the common theme here. And the Titans had enough talent to overcome it in 2021. The Titans had 91 players on their roster in 2021. That was the most in the NFL history that they have seen that many players on a single roster. They followed that up in 2022. 34 players were on injured reserve at one time or another. That also led the league. So the Titans are seeing historic injuries in back-to-back seasons and still finding a way to pluck and win games. But they didn't have the talent in 2022 that they had in 2021. So that's why you see the 7-game losing streak. And, of course, Tannehill was somebody who got hurt. You lose your starting quarterback. That's going to be tough. Personally, I think it may have been a blessing in disguise for the Titans. I think if the Titans eke out a 9-8 season and go into the playoffs instead of Jacksonville, they probably get blasted by the Chargers in round 1. They get a lesser draft pick or a worse draft pick. They don't get a blue chip prospect and a guy like Peter Skoronski on the offensive line. They sell themselves false hope. Maybe even Todd Downing is kept as offensive coordinator, which would have been an outright disaster. But you basically got to grab Mike Vrabel, scratching and clawing to get him to fire any of his guys. So I think the way the season ended for the Titans, while it was ugly, and as a Titans fan, it's never fun to watch them lose 7 games in a row after going 7-3, and watching Jacksonville win, and the way their fans are is just patently absurd, honestly. But either way, despite all of that, I think the way the season ended for the Titans and the change that Jake mentioned, we got a new general manager. He's really changing the way the organization operates in terms of the use of analytics and the what's the big word they've all been using, cooperation or whatever is the term that everybody's using now. So I think although it was ugly and it was hard to go through, I think the way the season ended was the best thing for the Titans' future. So I think that'll propel them to be better going forward. So that's how I see the end of the season. It was a blessing in disguise, really.
I like it. And as a Colts fan, the one thing that you never want to see, I don't care. I mean, our fandom, our lines cross, our paths cross, but you never want to see it happen the way that it happened due to injury for any team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
100%.
So I'm even really hoping that you guys can get out of that injury funk, because that's just absolutely horrible. You want to be able to see good football on Sundays, regardless of who's winning. So best of luck to that as well. But now, Tyler, I'll start with you on this one, because you kind of mentioned Peter Skoronski there. So I was going to get into the kind of the draft as a whole, but Peter Skoronski in particular is a man that is a man. Like he's he's built to be on the offensive line. He's athletic. He's big. Were there any other additions to that offensive line or anything else with that offensive line that's going to have improved this offseason to help make things a little bit more comfortable for the boys?
Yeah, I think they made huge changes on the offensive line. That's probably the place where we saw the most changes. Realistically, the Titans added Peter Skoronski in the first round of the draft. Like you mentioned, he's a guy who played tackle in college, but he's got shorter arms for a normal offensive tackle in the NFL. So there's the thought he'll slide in and play guard. And I think that's what we're seeing from the Titans in practice right now. They added Andre Dillard at left tackle, and I think he's really the key to the Titans' revamped offensive line, because Dillard was brought over from Philadelphia as a former first-round pick in 2019, but he was a bench player for Philadelphia and got beat out by a 7th-round player in Jordan Mailata, who became one of the better offensive tackles in the NFL. So the question is, was Andre Dillard good enough to be a starter, but he just had a better player in front of him in Philly? Or is he not good enough to be a starter and he's truly a bench player in the NFL, and the Titans may have trusted their starting left tackle position to a guy who isn't worthy? That's the question that we're going to find out. So Dillard is the guy who has come a boom or bust prospect, but the Titans also brought in Daniel Brunskill from San Francisco, similar guy, spot starter, but came off the bench. He's kind of just a league average starter at his best. The Titans are just hoping to get some consistency there after all the injuries. They'll have Skoronski at left guard, Dillard left tackle, Brunskill at right guard. Nicholas Petit-Frere comes back in his second year out of Ohio State as the right tackle. And the Titans have moved Aaron Brewer from left guard to center. And Brewer is probably the smallest starting offensive lineman in the entire NFL. He fits much better at center than he does at guard, and that's the position the Titans have been grooming him for, as center. So now that he's actually at his natural position and the Titans have put some more consistent, better talent around him, that may raise his level of play. So there is a chance. I don't think the Titans have it in them to be one of the top 10 offensive lines in the league next year. But if they can just go from being the worst offensive line in 2022 to league average, that could be a major improvement. I mean, Derrick Henry ran for 1,500 yards last year with the worst offensive line in the league. Tannehill got schmammied out there with Dennis Daly at left tackle. So if they just get league average offensive line play, it's going to be a huge boost for everyone else in the offense. And like from a fantasy perspective, that's going to help any Titans targets out.
You got shammied. I like it. This is fun on a bun. All right, Jake, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Tyler really hit it home. I think this offseason in general is really just looking at underutilized upside. And with Ron's limited cap space that he's playing around with, he did a fantastic job bringing in Dillard and Brunskill, and Skoronski should be great right off the bat. Brewer, moving to center, he's not going to be Ben Jones. We know that. But he should still be able to step in and be a guy. And the Nicholas Petit-Frere, of course, he's athletic. He should be able to fill that. And as long as he improves just even slightly, we should have at least an average line, which just getting rid of Dennis Daly, that line got tremendously better just overnight. You could add a flaming dumpster over there, and it would have been an improvement. So, yeah, I really agree. I think this is going to be a great investment. And a lot of these guys we can move away from even pretty early into their contracts, even if they don't work out. So I do like the way Ryan is moving forward with this.
So for those of you that are watching right now that don't already know, we also have a college football show that's on our network called the CFB Nation. And one of the main hosts on that show, on that platform, really got me hooked onto Will Levis. He got me locked into, and that's not a locked on pun there, but he got me locked into Will Levis about a year ago. And I watched him all season last year. Absolutely loved the guy, and I was really hoping he would come to the Colts. Two other players that I was really hoping would find a way home here is Peter Skoronski and friend of the show, Tyjae Spears. Tyjae Spears has been on a few times. He's a guy that everybody over at Toyless Titles are rooting for. So three of my favorite guys in this draft all went to my rivals. So this is hard, guys. This is really hard. What's also really hard is that so far this has been an awesome dynamic show, and I hate it when the Titan shows are really good. But Jake, you're going to get the solo layout this time because I want you to talk about my guys Will Levis and Tyjae Spears a little bit and what this draft means to the Titans moving forward.
Yeah, so really, we're really looking at laying the groundwork this season with Ryan's first time in the building. So Will Levis, we know there was very mixed opinions on him coming out. I had him personally ranked as my 8th best player in the draft, slightly behind one and only Anthony Richardson. I wasn't a big Stroud guy, but we're hoping we got what we need in Will Levis, and hopefully he can take that mantle from Ryan Tannehill after this season. If not, we've seen the improvement with Malik Willis as well this offseason, and hopefully we've got a guy in one of the two. I do think Will Levis coming out, obviously you want to throw away and burn that 2022 tape. Played through injuries. He had turf toe, a shoulder injury, dislocated finger. Obviously, that's going to affect your play, especially moving into a different pro-style system he had there at Kentucky and lost a lot of his playmakers. So looking back at that 2021 tape, it's a completely different player. I thought he played fantastic that year. You see the arm talent. You see the athletic traits that you're looking for in a future quarterback. As far as that, we already touched on Skoronski. Super happy with that pick. The Tyjae Spears pick in the Titans community, that is I seem to have cooled down a little bit. We seem to have got a guy, and that was a guy I was pretty high on coming out, but he was not a wide receiver. So any pick was a wrong pick if it wasn't a wide receiver, according to Titans Twitter. But I think we got some guys. Colton Dow, I think he's going to make this roster and replace somebody like Racy McMath going forward. And anything improving in that receiving core is going to be a blessing to us.
For what it's worth, I think that there's a chance that by the end, or maybe not even by the end, maybe in the next few seasons, Tyjae Spears may be breaking Titans records when it comes to receiving the ball as a running back. So I think you guys got a low-key wide receiver in him. And that's not just because I went to the Senior Bowl in Alabama. We had a whole group of guys down there, and we got to watch him in the Senior Bowl. Like I said, we've been on this guy for 2 seasons now. Like, he is an athlete. He's a stud, and he's going to turn some heads. So super proud of that pick, regardless of where he went to. So, Tyler, do you have anything to add on the draft as a whole that you're excited to see? You're muted, buddy.
Like Jake was saying, I think Spears is a great pick. I'm glad you guys were on him. Makes me feel good about it as well. I actually talked to Maddie Hawk, the sideline reporter from Tulane, a little bit ago. A couple of weeks ago, I did a deep dive into Tyjae Spears. She had a lot of great stories about, not only the player that he is, but how his teammates respond to him and how well liked he was within the locker room. And I think a lot of those things, outside of just him being a dynamic and explosive athlete, I think that kind of personality can make him a fan favorite, as something that's already happened to your guys' group over there at T2T. So I love Spears. I like what he's going to bring. And last year, Dontrell Hilliard led the Titans in touchdown catches with 4 as a running back out of the backfield. And I think Hilliard played 11 games last year with some of the injuries he dealt with. So if you had a guy who's more of a dynamic playmaker than Hilliard and somebody like Spears, I think he could have some really, really nice production in the Titans offense this year. And he's like a dynamic that they didn't have. And I agree, he may not be a wide receiver, like Jake was saying, but he could be a playmaker in the offense. And I think that's really what the Titans are looking for.
I like it. And you mentioned Maddie Hodek of the Tulane. She also does correspondence for the Saints. So just so everybody knows, I'm recording that episode on Friday. The Saints were recording with Maddie on Friday. So,
awesome.
Along with Chris, the guy that does a lot of Saints podcasts, I still have not learned how to pronounce his last name, so I kind of feel bad that I'm not prepared for that. But anyhow, let's move forward before I make myself look like even more of a jerk here. So I wanted to take a look at the depth chart here, the roster for the tight end position. So what does that tight end position look like? I know you guys have a stud, again, not even going to try to pronounce the name, that really came on at the end of the season last year. But is that going to be enough, Tyler, at that position?
That would be Chig Okonkwo that you're talking about. Chig Okonkwo.
So it's just Chig?
His full name is Chigoziem. But I mean, most people, when they're talking about him on a conversational basis, just call him Chig. I like to say get chiggy with it. No. Okay, sorry. Don't want to get a copyright strike or just lose the audience as I sing.
You're allowed to comment.
Yeah, I'm about as monotone as Drake out there. Anyways, moving on. Chig is incredibly dynamic. He ran the best 40 time of any tight end in his class when he came out in 2022. He was a guy, honestly, that I was pounding the table for in the pre-draft process because he's got a lot of similarities to a guy like Jonnu Smith, who played real well for the Titans for a few years. And I think he has some similarities to a guy like Delaney Walker, who might be the best tight end in Titans history, if you want to go by the numbers. So I think that Chig has a great chance to explode this year and be really a breakout player. He barely played more than 50% of the snaps most of the year last year. He didn't really start getting quality snaps until the second half of the season. He led all rookie tight ends in catches, led all rookie tight ends in yards. He led all tight ends in the NFL with 3 catches of 40 yards or more. That displays the explosiveness. He led all rookie tight ends in yards per route run. I mean, what else do you want from me? Chig Okonkwo is a breakout star. Take him in your fantasy drafts. Pay attention to him when the Titans are on the screen. He's just a credit. Now, he's not your prototypical tight end who's like a George Kittle or a Gronk that's going to have their hand in the dirt and blow up a D end and run blocking. but he's got great athleticism and explosion. I think they can use him like we talked about with Spears. I think they can use him maybe not as a traditional tight end, but more of a multiple weapon on the offense. Split him out at wide receiver in a 2 wide receiver set. Use him as a guy who goes in motion and goes across the formation and gets a jet sweep handoff. I mean, you could do a bunch of different things with Chig because of the athlete that he is. And I think with where the Titans are at with their skill positions, they need to utilize him as much as they possibly can.
And not for nothing, for those of you that are watching this Tennessee Titans breakdown because you're just Titans fans and you only tune in once a year when we do the Titans show, you can go back to last Tuesday's episode that we just recorded for us last night, our potential breakout players for fantasy football purposes, for those of you that like fantasy football. And Chig was one of my breakout potentials, and I only chose 5. I chose 6, but one's just for the Patreons. Remember patreon.com/loyalisttitles? You remember that reference from earlier? But anyhow, so Chig was one of the 5 breakout candidates that I gave on last night's episode. For those of you watching on Friday, it would have been Tuesday night. But now, Tyler, my only concern there is that you mentioned he's probably not going to be a guy that gets down dirty in the dirt and hits hard with the blocks and all that sort of stuff. So, Jake, is there another tight end on that roster that can pick up that slack, or are we just playing with the 5 offensive linemen and then just letting Derrick Henry embarrass people again?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. Chig is obviously a weapon. He's going to be utilized in the offense. But when it comes to snap counts, Jeff Swaim actually led the Titans last year from the tight end position as that more blocking role. We brought in Trevon Wesco, who's currently, we believe, dealing with an injury concern. Hopefully,
he finally practiced. He finally practiced on Wednesday. He was out there practicing. First appearance he's made in the entire offseason. So that was good to know with how important his role is going to be in the offense, as you were saying.
Well, maybe he just had to shake off that Jets virus.
Maybe so.
Yeah. But he is a 6th lineman for us. He's probably going to see more snaps, in my opinion, than somebody like Chig. But he's not, receiving yards are not going to be there. He's not going to be that move piece. But he is going to see a lot of snaps, and he is a great blocker. One of the highest graded blockers, I believe, on PFF as far as the tight end position goes last season. And then we have the youngster and Josh Wiley. He's kind of that moldable piece right now. He could be a asset in the blocking game in the future at 6'7", 250. He's a big dude. And even behind him, we have somebody like Kevin Radar, Justin Rigg, who played with Will Levis, funny enough. I think that is going to be a solid position for the Titans for the foreseeable future. And Chig, if he takes that next step forward, he could be a top 3 tight end in the whole league.
I like it. That's a lot more positivity coming from that position than I anticipated going into it. But that's why I have you experts of your teams on, because there's a lot of people out there looking at it as this is a one-man show at the tight end position. A lot of us don't have that inside information. So this is why we have the experts on. So now what I need you to do, Jake, is sell me on this wide receiving core, because when I look at it, I look at a man, Treylon Burks, that has to be that number 1 guy. And we don't know for sure that he is. We've seen glimpses, right? We don't know for sure that he can be that number 1 guy. And then Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, that's what I call him. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is next up on the list. And then a bunch of guys. As much as I love the name Racey McMath, it's just a bunch of dudes, right? So Jake, you just sold me very, very well on the tight end position. You're obviously a salesman at heart. Sell me on this wide receiver position.
Man, that is a tough question to ask. Obviously, when we look at this wide receiver core from a back, it is Treylon Burks and then nobody else. Obviously, we're in the nuke discussions right now, and if that was to happen, that's a godsend for us. If you can take DeAndre Hopkins and be that wide receiver 1, Burks as a 2, and then NWI as a potential 3, that looks a lot better than having Burks as your 1 and NWI as your 2. You're hoping to get some more playing time from Kyle Phillips, who could be at that majority slot contributor, and we should see him on special teams as well. And then we got people like Chris Moore from the Texans, who actually did outproduce Bobby Trees last season. So you're hoping that you have that veteran presence still, and hopefully he's got a little bit left that can kind of orchestrate this offense behind Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill. We got people like Reggie Robertson who could stick on the bottom of the roster, and then people like Kyrus Jackson and Treshawn Harrison and players like that. But this is not going to be the focal point of the team, regardless of what it is. We're going to play defense, and we're going to run the football and smash you in the face. So that is the Mike Vrabel era. And then Colton Dow. We forget about Colton Dow, that wide receiver that played D2 in college, 7th-round draft pick. He is an athletic freak at 6'3", 215. He could be that field stretcher for us. And as long as we can put those pieces together and fill those puzzle pieces, we should be all right. I don't think it's the worst wide receiver core in the NFL, if you catch my drift.
How about you, Tyler? Do you think it's also not the worst in the NFL?
No, I think it is. I think it is pretty solidly. I'll be honest. No offense, Jake. I just I guess I don't have much faith in anybody outside of Treylon Burks in terms of their talent level. I mean, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine was an undrafted free agent out of Indiana that's only stuck around because he's willing to block. He's basically a skinny tight end. So to me, Kyle Phillips is the guy, right? Obviously, if DeAndre Hopkins is added, we're having an entirely different conversation. But we're talking about Racey McMath. We're talking about Colton Dow. I mean, what are we really talking about here? As Titans fans, you could be optimistic about these guys, but what are the odds that any of these dudes make any kind of contribution whatsoever on a real Sunday? It's very low. Kyle Phillips is the only other guy in the Titans' entire receiving room right now that deserves any conversation. He played in his first game against the Giants last year. Titans had to go to 2-minute drill and tempo late. He got a couple of catches. He had 6 catches in the one game, had a 64-yard punt return, and then he caught 2 more passes the rest of the year. And you know, people are thinking that the Titans will be okay. I just can't feel that way. Kyle Phillips may end up being a good slot player, but I don't know how you can count on it. So I think the Titans, what's frustrated me the most about the Titans all season, it seems they refuse to pick a path. Either they're prioritizing young guys and playing for the future, or they're doing one last run and one last hurrah with Tannehill and Derrick Henry. And they've tried to do both, and it's going to get them nowhere to do both. And I think the wide receiver room right now and the way that it looks, how can you sell to your fan base that you're one last run with Tannehill and Henry, and that's the wide receiver group that you've given them? It's laughable. So I think if they can add Hopkins, it totally changes the dynamic for the team. But right now, other than Treylon Burks, you don't really have any reason to even learn the names of any other wide receiver on the Titans team. And they did that by design, which is the most frustrating part.
Yep, I agree completely. And then also, at the very least, if you can get DeAndre Hopkins, or if you can get any other piece that might happen to pop up or in a trade or something, at least you now have a quarterback in Will Levis that can move the pocket as well. And that's going to help out with a lot of it. And then now you just need guys to be good route runners, right? Or you need guys that can break open and get separation. So they don't have to necessarily be great wide receivers if you can move the pocket and you can run the ball well to be productive. But just as you said, that still doesn't bode well for a lot.
Sure helps. Sure helps to have some good wide receivers, especially you only play 2 wide receivers most of the time for the Titans. Can we just get 2? When they have 2 decent NFL level wide receivers, they have a good offense. Everybody hates Julio Jones and thinks that was some big failure, but I mean, they went 12-5 and got the number 1 seed, and the dude put up 3 catches for 60 yards in the playoffs. And you know, I think if you would have told Titans fans, hey, AJ and Julio got you 200 yards and a touchdown in the playoff game, fans would have been happy with that. So it just goes to show Julio wasn't even great. But if you just have 2 guys who are just real NFL players, it can make the Titans offense a totally different beast. And I don't understand why they don't understand that, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree completely. So let's shift gears a little bit. We've hit everything on the offense. We don't have a whole lot of time left. Let's just talk about the defense real quick. Just kind of skimming over this roster real quick. Tyler, what were some of the big offseason moves, the big offseason acquisitions for that defense? Obviously, you guys didn't draft any defensive players, but I know you still picked up some players. So is there anything there that's going to help improve that defense and make you guys a bit of a force, since that is obviously the game plan, right? Defense and running, just like Jake said earlier.
Absolutely. Well, for me, well, it's not for me, it's for everyone. The Titans made 3 big additions on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. They added Arden Key as an edge rusher, stole him from Jacksonville. They added Azeez Al-Shaair. Everyone tells me I say Al-Shaair and everyone says I'm wrong, and then I say Al-Shaair and everyone says I'm wrong. So no one really knows, but his first name's Azeez. And then they added Sean Murphy-Bunting at cornerback. So they added at pass rush, at linebacker, in the secondary. They added a piece. And I think Sean Murphy-Bunting, especially at cornerback, 6'1", physical. He had 3 interceptions during his rookie season when the Buccaneers made the playoff run to the Super Bowl to win it. So he's a guy who has good ball skills and good ball disruption throughout his career. He's had some issues with injury, but it was really just last season that he dealt with injuries. He's still 25 years old. The Titans want to play press man coverage when the chips are on the table, and Sean Murphy-Bunting can do that, and he could be that guy for him. So I think he can make a big impact. And Azeez Al-Shaair at linebacker. Linebackers are linebackers. He's going to hit. He's going to run. He's going to be physical. But I think Arden Key. Arden Key had 4.5 sacks with Jacksonville last year as a rotational edge rusher. But in the last month of the season, he was second in the NFL, only trailing Nick Bosa in total pressures. So he's a guy who plays with tremendous energy, tremendous fire, and I think as a rotational pass rusher with the returning Harold Landry from ACL, which you could count as an addition. He didn't play last year with the torn ACL. And then Rashad Weaver, who's going into his 3rd season. I think with that edge rush trio of Key, Weaver, and Landry, the Titans can really cause trouble with quarterbacks. And if they stay a little healthier in the secondary and Sean Murphy-Bunting can be an NFL starting corner for him, I think the Titans had the number 1 total rush defense in the NFL last year, but they were last in allowed passing yards. So if they can just be a little bit better in the secondary and a little healthier in the secondary, that pass rush is going to create turnovers for them. So that would take this Titans team to another level and probably back closer to the 12-5 level that they were at in 2021.
Excellent. Jake?
I think you hit it home. I mean, Arden Key, that is the one I'm super excited about, especially with Harold Landry coming back from the ACL. We'll see. We know that first year back is a little bit slower to kick off. We got that firsthand with Bud Dupree. But Arden Key, I think he could lead. He could potentially lead this team in sacks, I believe. Jeffrey Simmons, we got Danico Autry. That line should be nasty. Azeez, he's another one of those underutilized upside players. If he can fill that David Long role and improve upon his pass coverage roles that he had over at San Fran, he should be a star in this defense. Having those players in front of you, allowing you to get your lanes, that's going to make you look so much better than having those blockers in your face. And then Sean Murphy-Bunting, Roger McCreary played more snaps in coverage than any other secondary player in the entire NFL, in the slot and outside. So if he can just take that next step forward and have that, we should have a decent secondary that can play off this pass rush.
And I absolutely hated to see Danico Autry leave Indy, especially when he ended up with the Titans. But that's what I mean. Like, you guys have so many players that I'm going to be rooting for, like, not just for fantasy and but as players, you know. So, like, it makes it very difficult to hate the Titans, but I'll do my best. So we've almost wrapped everything up here live from the suite at Nissan Stadium. But now that we're done with all the offseason stuff, let's take a little bit of a glimpse into this up-and-coming season. So I'm taking a look here at the schedule coming up. And this is just my personal opinion. I want to see what you guys have to say. In the first 6 games before the Week 7 bye week, I see 4 very winnable games. So I can see a 4-2 record going into the bye. Immediately after the bye, I see another very possible 4-2 record. I got them 8-4 after 2/3 of the season. And then those last 5 games, 4 very winnable games in those last 5. So, I mean, just going by quick math, I see, of course, 12 wins right there. And that's my niece that keeps texting me. Holy crap. But anyhow,
Vibrate always.
Well, it's connected to my Apple computer, and I can't unconnect it. I don't know what's going on.
Technology, man, it's taking over. The AI, it's getting you.
All right, so let me tell my computer, stop doing that. All right, let's see if it gets that. All right, so but anyhow, So I've got them down for 12 wins, and that's with me being a Colts fan. So I've been doing on TikTok, our TikTok account. We're trying to get some subscribers on there. So those of you out there, make sure you follow us on TikTok. But on our TikTok, I'm doing this series of all 32 where I'm throwing out the schedule and I am asking people for predictions. The average for the Titans, when I throw out the Yahoo that keeps putting 0-17 for every team, I can't wait to find out which team he has 17-0, so I know what his fandom is. But when I throw all those out, it seems like the average for the Titans are 7-10. And then I've got them at 12 wins. So it's that's a big difference there, 5 wins. So so I forget who we ended with. So Jake, if you would go ahead and take the reign here and see what do you think about my 12-win prediction?
I feel like you're more of a Titans fan than I am. That's very optimistic, in my opinion. This team, we're going to have some make or break wins or losses that are going to make this season. Specifically, like Seattle, the Pittsburgh game, Cleveland, Chargers. There's a lot of winnable games on this, and having Mike Vrabel at the helm, he could lead some middle school cheerleaders to 8 wins, I believe. But I personally have us at 9 wins on the season. That could be good enough to win the AFC South. We'll see how we all destroy each other this season. Hopefully it's us up top and Jaguars can take a dirt nap for all I care. But yeah, 12 wins, a little high for me. I feel like that might be the absolute ceiling for us. But who knows? If we get Hopkins, who knows? Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Jake. If they get Hopkins, I think 10 to 12 wins is probably a smart range to have them in. A lot of it, as we started with, will depend on health and the injuries. If they're as injured as they have been the last 2 years, nothing that we said just now for the last 30 minutes matters. So that really depends how much Vrabel runs these guys into the ground during the summer. All of our new players, Justin, have been talking about how intense the Titans practices are and how they don't practice this hard other places. And of course, they're saying it in a glowing way. But at the end of the day, maybe that's why the Titans are always the most injured team, because they're having full, intense practices in June. But anyways, I think that right now I have the Titans at 8 wins. I started at 7-10, but I've gotten a little more comfortable with their schedule and what the team is looking like since we've seen reports of them practicing and things like that. I think things could go well and they could still win the AFC South this year. To me, that's more of a people have fallen too in love with Jacksonville. But the one big thing for me is the Titans have played a first place schedule. Your place where you place in your division determines your opponents in your conference the next year. So the Titans are going to get a second place schedule this year, playing second place teams rather than playing the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, all of them all the time. So the Jaguars played a last place schedule last year, and now they're going to have to play a first place schedule, which is infinitely more difficult. So I think really Jacksonville will come back down a little bit, and the Titans will have a little easier schedule and probably be a little healthier and allow them to come up a little bit. I think 8 to 10 wins right now is the right range with how it looks right now. Hopkins changes that, but I'd have them at 8 wins with maybe 9 if they stay healthier than I expect.
I like it. And then that added 17th game. Actually, never mind.
It's seeded base too.
What's that?
You play the team that finished in your place
right.
in the division that you're set to play the next year. So, you know, even that game is impacted by your seeding, and Jacksonville will get a tougher opponent this year than the Titans will.
Yeah, I was trying to look at the schedule and see if I could pinpoint exactly which team that was, but I was looking at the wrong thing. The schedule I had pulled up has the preseason on there too, so it threw me off. I was like, "There's no way that the Bears finished that high." But right. All right, so guys, I think that's pretty much it. Unless you have anything else to add that you're excited about for the season, I think I'm gonna go ahead and close this thing out. So again, I'm going to throw their information down there at the bottom. But Tyler, thank you so much for coming on. That's at Tic Tac Titans. And again, I'm going to keep that saved. We're gonna do this again next year. And this was a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
All right, and same for you, Jake. We're going to save it. So in the past, the Titans, we we've had Tyler as kind of our consistent, and the other guys have kind of been rotating in and out. I'm going to save this one. You don't look like a guy that's going to be a fair weather fan. You're going to be around for a while, so I'm gonna keep you in the book here. So that's Jake Robertson at Glory Day Sports. Make sure you check him out. Again, thank you, Jake, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Like I promised in the beginning, we had fun on a bun.
That's right. Absolutely. It was fun. For us, toiletstotitles.com, or you can find us patreon.com/toiletstotitles. Pretty much any platform. Just go to that little search bar that every platform has, type in Toilets to Titles, and I guarantee you there's not going to be a second one. It's us. All right. We're the only ones named Toilets to Titles. So thanks again, guys. Y'all have a great day. And you know what? I almost forgot this right here.
What's up, Title Tribe? We appreciate you watching the show. If you want to catch up on all of our college football content, make sure you subscribe to the CFB Nation by clicking their link below. Make sure you subscribe to the Toilets to Titles podcast network by clicking our link below. And make sure to catch our other content by watching these videos to the side of me.